Okay. Welcome everyone to Promoting Knowledge and Engagement, Addressing Energy Insecurity in the Gullah Community. Please note that this webinar is being recorded. If you have any questions, please submit it to the Q&A box and our panelists will respond after the presentation. Following the webinar, we'll send out the recording, slide deck, and any resources mentioned in the presentation to the registrants. There will be a short survey immediately following the webinar, and we would fully appreciate your feedback. Next slide, please. Okay, before we hop into today's content, we wanted to provide a bit of context on the work that SEIA does in the Southeast. SEIA promotes efficient energy as a catalyst for economic growth, workforce development, and energy security across 11 Southeastern states. We provide research, consultation and education, stakeholder facilitation, program management, and financial services to a range of stakeholders working in the energy sector. Relevant to today's conversation and to give more historical context to energy insecurity as a persistent issue in the Southeast is the Energy Insecurity Story Map produced in collaboration with the Texas Energy Poverty Research Institute. I'll drop a link in a moment. Now I'll turn things over to our research associate, Joy Ward.
Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to Promoting Knowledge and Engagement, Addressing Energy Insecurity in the Gullah Community. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Joy Ward and I serve as SEIA's Research Associate. Today, I'm joined by my colleague, Lily Smith, as well as special guests, Chriscilia Cox of Suma Consulting and Commissioner Marilyn Hemingway of the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. SEIA inherited the Southeast Energy Insecurity Stakeholder Initiative, a report containing a series of stakeholder recommendations addressing energy insecurity in the region from the Nichols Institute at Duke University in 2022. In response, SEIA has begun work on the Southeast Energy Insecurity Project to implement the recommendations outlined by Duke. Two initiatives include the formation of the Southeast Energy Insecurity Project Leadership Forum and the development of this webinar series. Members of the Leadership Forum include original contributors to the development of the stakeholder recommendations. As a part of their work, 2 grants were selected and awarded funding for their project work, which aligns with stakeholder initiatives. We would also like to take a moment to congratulate the winners of the inaugural Energy Insecurity Project Implementation Awards, the City of Savannah Office of Sustainability and the Athens-Clarke County Unified Government Sustainability Office, and the Sustainability Institute of Charleston, South Carolina. Lily's going to drop a link in the chat to learn more about those projects. In addition, the webinar series was created to complement these recommendations as a whole. There are 24 recommendations that fall into 6 working groups, including systemic change, housing, awareness and community engagement, data access and improvement, programs and access to financing, and utility solutions. We're planning to host 6 webinars based on those working groups, and the first one is today. So Lily's going to drop another link in the chat to give more detail to the Duke Energy and Security recommendations. But today, we are talking about the awareness and community engagement working group. On that note, I have the pleasure of introducing our guest speakers, Chriscilia Cox of Suma Consulting and Commissioner Marilyn Hemingway of the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. So I've got their bios written out, so it's going to be amazing. So please allow me to read these. Marilyn L. Hemingway, civic leader and entrepreneur, is the founder and president of the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce, the Gullah Geechee Foundation, and the Hemingway Group communications firm. An advocate for the environment and clean renewable energy, Marilyn founded the annual Gullah Geechee Environmental and Energy Conference hosted in South Carolina and Georgia with plans to expand to North Carolina and Florida. A native of Georgetown, South Carolina, Marilyn's Gullah Geechee roots extend along the entire coast of South Carolina from Horry to Beaufort counties and includes a long line of civic, business, education, and political family engagement. She was recognized by the Post and Courier as 2020 12 African-American leaders to know in South Carolina, is a recipient of the South Carolina African-American Heritage Commission 2021 Herbert A. DaCosta Trailblazer Award, the Conservation Voters of South Carolina 2020 Harriet Keyserling Community Advocate Award, and the Georgetown NAACP Branch number 5520 Leadership Award. In 2020, Marilyn received a presidential appointment to the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor Commission. And as for Chriscilia, Chriscilia is an environmental and public health professional and Army veteran leveraging over 15 years of proven experience in managing sustainable ecological health programs, supervising the development of environmental health policy, and providing ecological health compliance with the Department of Defense. She founded Suma Consulting, LLC, a Georgia-based consulting firm providing environmental management and sustainability. She has a comprehensive training background in public relations, resource allocation, and compliance with occupational health and safety laws and regulation. A native of Johns Head, South Carolina, Chriscilla's Gullah Geechee roots also extend along the coast of South Carolina from Florence to Charleston counties and include documented linkage to Africa. Her lineage has many civic, business, education, and political family engagement roots within these counties, West Africa, and the Caribbean. Okay. Chriscilia holds many certifications, including being a specialist in waste management, policy development, and training. She maintains professional affiliations with organizations such as the Green Business Bureau, the National Association of Cannabis Businesses, and recently the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce as Chief Sustainability Officer. Chriscilia has been recognized as a top environmental leader, advocate, and innovative strategist to look out for globally at least 2 national agencies. Please join me in welcoming our speakers, and now I'll turn it over to Chriscilia and Marilyn to begin their presentation. Marilyn, let me know when it's okay for me to stop sharing.
You can stop sharing.
Beautiful.
I should be there.
Get in there. Beautiful.
All right, very good. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for allowing Chriscilia and I to come and share this time with you and speak with you regarding the work that we do and also the environmental justice and energy justice work that's happening in our Gullah community. It's not just me and Chriscilia, but it's the entire community that is learning and positioning itself as a resource in energy justice and environmental justice. But we're here today to talk about why is that, and also the learning arc that the community is going through to get us here to where we are today. So we're happy to promote the knowledge and engagement and address the energy insecurity in the Gullah community. As stated, my name is Marilyn Hemingway, and thank you for very nicely reading that biography. Sometimes I impress myself, so thank you very much. So to give you the foundation and understand who we are, what we are, and the work we're doing with the Gullah Geechee Chamber sister organizations, I just want to take a few minutes and give you the background of the organizations and also of the community. All right, so there we go. All right, in 2018, I founded the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce to create global awareness, profitability, and sustainability of African-American businesses and other entities impacting the Gullah Geechee community. And so that means in March 2023, it's going to be 5 years. So I'm going to have a little celebration. The Gullah Geechee, thank you. The Gullah Geechee Chamber Foundation was founded in 2020, and its mission is to raise funds supporting the educational programs of the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. These two sister organizations work together to create economic uplift, but we cannot do that without environmental justice. Why? It's because who we are has Gullah Geechee, all right? And everything here that you're seeing cannot do it without that environmental component. And why? So first, before I tell you why, I just want to show you the actual corridor itself. We're in 4 states. The Gullah Geechee are federally recognized in 4 states, but we are actually a global community. You find Gullah Geechee in the Caribbean islands, North America, in particular these states, and Virginia, and South America. And why? Because the transatlantic slave route. Enslaved individuals from West Africa were brought to the Caribbean, then North and South America. So we're all family, we're all cousins, we are a global entity. All right, who are the Gullah Geechee? We are descendants of enslaved Africans from West Africa countries in particular, who were brought to the Caribbean islands, North and South America, because of their knowledge of how to control the water and manage the land to grow the rice, indigo, sugar, and sea island cotton. We are a language, but so much more. We are food and foodways. We're medicine, engineers, builders, historians, storytellers, music entrepreneurs, spiritual practitioners, and environmentalists. We were environmentalists before environmentalists were cool. We are keepers of the water and land. And that is foundational to who we are, how to control the water and manage the land. We were forced, our ancestors were forced to reduce, reuse, recycle. They knew inherently practices that didn't work against the water and land, but worked with the water and land. And it is that foundation that I use to inform all of the work I do, including our environmental programs that you will learn more about later. I cannot do the economic uplift part if the water quality is bad, if the land is not managed correctly. So it's very vital to the work we do that we take care of the land and the water that provides us sustenance and provides us sustainability. So we're environmentalists. That's why taking it from the environmental piece, the energy is so important that we realize that when coal generating plants are built in our communities and they're polluting that water and that land, that it impacts our culture. It's a cultural thing. So we are very much interested in the impact of dirty energy on who we are and the impact financially and economically, but also the impact culturally. So through our work, we've developed energy justice programs. You'll learn more about that later. And we also work very much in the policy realm so that we can be a part of creating green renewable energy, cleaner energy, because we believe that leads to cleaner water, cleaner land, and hence the actual continuation of our culture. Because if we don't have our culture, then we cease to exist. So energy justice, environmental justice are very important to who we are, to our the mere existence of who we are culturally and our community. And with that being said, I believe I'm at the point where I'm going to hand it off to Chriscilia. Yes, I am, so that she
Yes.
can introduce herself. Thank you, Chriscilia.
Thank you, Marilyn, and thank you everyone for being here. So my part is the next level as from individuals. I created Suma Consulting LLC right after I retired out of serving this great nation for 22 years as an Army public health officer. I created this as a resource to helping business owners, administrators, and organizations make more environmentally aware of what they're doing to the environment. Basically for the best interest of the local community of Gullah Geechee, we support the Gullah Geechee by helping them make them more aware as well as be economically independent on a healthy, dependent on a healthy planet. Just like how Marilyn actually just spoke of how that is an essential to our culture. The same thing, we were natural entrepreneurs as well. We were the ones who actually grew rice, indigo. That's the way how we made our living for most of the part of in the Gullah Geechee culture, and it's still relevant today. We're a community within a community, and so in understanding how that affects on both us and also the environment and vice versa, Suma is actually consulting for the community in this manner, but also takes its consulting outside of the corridor and ensuring that others know exactly how it impacts the communities and the communities that they are actually involved in. So as Marilyn stated so eloquently earlier that we're all cousins, the same thing as the family traditional unit. When one affects one person in our family, it affects everybody. So this knowledge is very, very essential in bringing a call to action, which includes the energy and the energy injustices that we have. On the opposite, Green Home by Suma is the actual residential portion extension of the consultancy. So this is what you can actually do in tailored solutions for a family. So you have your individuals, and then the next unit, of course, an individual could be a family, but then you have a family that's extended. That's including our little friends, our furry kids, and making sure that our pets are included in it because they are living creatures. We all are here together. So With Green Home by Suma, those tailored solutions is to help you see an economical way of actually getting to where we're trying to get as a whole as the two bigger organizations. Once that happens from the family perspective, of course, we got to go to grocery stores. You get gas, unfortunately, right now. Those types of things. That's where the business portion for it is. They're both again tangent working hand in hand because we are seeking to provide a way for people to become citizen scientists. That's like the biggest thing that both Marilyn and I do is to get more of the education and more of the awareness to ensure that you know exactly how to do that, when to do that, and how that affects everyone that's involved.
Thank you, Chriscilia. In the work we do, there are a number of challenges. So we want to share with you those challenges, and we also want to share with you those solutions. And the challenges, and one that I've added is to, and I think it's very important, listen to the community. Listen to us. All too often we have scientists, academics and researchers come into our community and they pick our brain and then they go forth and do their research reports, whatever, but they're not really listening to the community because the community is a resource to all of the challenges facing us. The first challenge is climate change. We're very much like other indigenous groups, the canary in the coal mine. We tend to live in low-lying areas. A prime example is the low country of South Carolina. It is below sea level in many ways. So already we are challenged with increased salinity of the land. We're challenged with water coming into our systems, in the well systems, etc. Climate change is increasing our energy costs. We are the canary in the coal mine. So it bears to listen to what's going on with the community. Energy justice. I gave an example earlier of coal generating plants. I actually live probably 5 minutes away from a coal generating plant. We are now going through an energy transition. They have proposed that they want to replace it with a natural gas plant. So I don't know how they figure that's going to be much better. It goes into eminent domain. It's in a majority Black community, Gullah Geechee community, and it's a lot of what's happening with the injustice piece of it is they're not talking to the community, and this utility has actually done this before, and they did hold one community meeting last year. They've been shutting down coal generating plants for about 10 years. The one meeting that they held last year was the first community meeting they held in 10 years of going through this process. They have polluted our rivers because of the coal generating plant. They've polluted our land, and we have to live with this. I remember 40 years ago when the signs started going up about you can only eat out of this river, we suggest once a week because of what that coal generating plant was doing. We as a community have approached and suggested, why not solar? Why not put a solar plant on it? It's a process when it comes to energy justice. It includes listening to the community and taking us seriously, but it also includes the community learning more about who we are as environmentalists, our knowledge of the water, the knowledge of the land, and also learning how to be advocates for the community within the energy justice realm. And that's very closely connected, and I'm sure you've heard this through Chriscilia and I talking this morning, to environmental justice. It is a constant job every day that we are out here working on energy justice and environmental justice. And it is a challenge because we are a low wealth community and many of us are working 2 or 3 jobs. So if we have to work to find the time to be energy advocates for the community, environmental advocates to the community. So for us, it's not just about saying, let's go do energy justice, let's go do environmental justice. It is a very nuanced and layered approach to being an advocate for our community. Also, lack of access to information regarding energy. It goes back to being low wealth. Most low wealth communities not to have ready access to information. So that's the issue. Getting our folks knowledge so that they can be a good advocate for their community. Lack of infrastructure. Um, Once we get the knowledge, where do we go? Once we get the knowledge, how do we position ourselves as a resource? Also, lack of infrastructure is just good paying jobs, allowing us to have the freedom to be advocates. Lack of infrastructure also includes quality, affordable housing. One of our energy problems is you pay a lot for energy because you don't have insulation, you don't have a weatherized home. That's the lack of infrastructure issues that we face. And then access to financial and people capital. Chriscilia knows this, we both do. A serious brain drain in our communities because, like anyone, you're going to seek better educational and economic opportunities. So we lose a lot of our youth. And then absence of generational wealth. As I said earlier, we are a low wealth community. Many of our financial resources need to come from outside of the community, and the investment made into the community, either through good jobs, creation of small businesses that will allow us to be advocates. And then cultural appropriation. And quite frankly, that's how this entire culture and community started. People were extracted from their homeland and brought here, and the value of our labor was extracted from our ancestors, and that impacts us to this day. And so cultural appropriation is extraction of our knowledge without financial benefit, and that must end because we are a resource to the energy justice broader realm that we are all having to deal with. But all too often, the value is extracted out of our community. I'm going to move
Marilyn,
on to
Marilyn,
solutions to this. Go ahead,
Marilyn,
Priscilla.
I was going to actually just add on to the slide as well,
Yes,
on
go
a couple of things you point on, just to bring it to the B2B businesses and to families. The first one, definitely what Marilyn definitely mentioned about our challenges about listening to the community and having folks to really understand, having cultural sensitivity means a lot. Knowing that, understanding, doing some research about the communities that you go into first before you start talking about injustices, and that actually goes back down to the lack of access to information regarding energy, and also those who are coming in that don't have that respect of cultural sensitivity, trying to tell someone about how they're living and how it affects them. So listening is very, very important, and making sure that you have that cultural sensitivity to understand that, okay, well, why this group does not, do a certain item, or why they're doing it this certain way. Well, they're doing it a certain way because of culture, or that's what they taught, and not meeting people where they are. So with that, it goes right into the lack of infrastructure and not using those advocacies out there to help you get the information to those who need it. Marilyn and I are an entity, two entities, and plus one entity on several things, to where we're people probably listen to more of the leaders that are within their community than they probably would somebody who's just coming out the blue and just talking about energy. So making collaborations and doing think tanks and actually taking the time to sit down to strategize and communicate. Risk management and public health communication are two things that is in the field that you have to use in order to get that information out. Making sure that you have leaders involved, and making sure you know who is the voice of that community, to where folks can actually listen. And oftentimes, because of the appearance of low generational wealth, or the environment, the looks of an environment, oh, this place probably don't have leaders like that. Everybody is not smart. Everyone, you make these assumptions that the understanding of what you're trying to bring in to help is not being received, or people don't generally understand. And that's oftentimes within the community. The language may be different. We're both educated, both Marilyn and I, and they have several educated leaders that did not all leave. They do come back, or they do get petitioned elsewhere to actually say, hey, if there are anybody from the Gullah Geechee culture, do you mind coming back and actually teaching us what you have? But it is true about the absence of generational wealth of all of the younger generation leaving for better opportunity because of the fact of what has been going on for so long. And those are two right there, Marilyn. I just wanted to just emphasize before we
Thank
get
you,
to
Priscilla.
before our wonderful solutions. Back to you,
Thank
Marilyn.
you. And before I go on to solutions, I also want to make note that energy burdens impact small businesses also. If you're in your home, and many of us start our micro businesses out of our homes, and you have to make a choice between, do I pay my electric bill, prescription bill, buy food? You're not thinking about maybe your dream of having a small business. So it is a real energy burden if you have to worry about that bill and it may be a high bill because you can't weatherize your house. So energy justice, well, energy burdens kill dreams also. And I don't think people quite think about it like that. They think about it, well, folks have high bills, let's figure out a way for them to pay that bill. But there's a more esoteric approach to this also. Energy burdens kill dreams. Energy justice hopefully helps to save some of those dreams. And I just wanted to make note of that because sometimes we don't really think about it that way. So what are solutions? And I'm going to let Chriscilia go ahead and take this slide and see how I've worked that, Chriscilia.
Yes, I saw how you worked. That is beautifully done, Marilyn. Beautifully done.
And I'll add my piece to it. But solutions, community-based solutions.
Okay, so for the solutions, we see it as we're doing this awesome work, courageous work, is actually create educational opportunities through our community outreach. So everywhere we walk, everywhere we talk, opportunities of focus groups, workshops, interviews, just sitting down and having a cup of tea and coffee. Our culture loves when older generational folks within our community love to sit and talk generally. That's just the culture. Come and have a cup of tea. Come have something to eat. Come, come over here. Oh, hi, I haven't seen you in such and such a long time. You look beautiful. You have kids. And in those conversations, we talk about how they're doing, how are they feeling these days? And then we go into the conversations about our work and how important it is. So everything is very deliberate. When we go in, then of course we have fun while we're doing it too. And as in having fun, like, wow, this is a great workshop. I didn't expect this, this particular experience. Also when it comes specifically to energy justice with community embedded solutions, and especially in what being a commissioner that Marilyn is, literally knowing how to tell a story to those who are in leadership, to not make it so, oh, you need to do this, you need to fight for us, not that type of thing, but go into more of a collaborative partnership, more of a resource. I need you and you need me type of message within the storytelling. Marilyn's so excellent at that, right? and it's so important that she's at these levels where she's able to have those platforms. On the side for me, I do it on the commissioning meetings, getting leaders together, proposing things, giving ideas, sitting back in the room and listening first, which is very important to see where the needs of the community from a leadership perspective, and then how we can actually make solutions on the spot, actually to present in such a manner that is accepted and not just shunned away on the other side. Because that's very important. Because honestly speaking, I have learned, and I know Marilyn have learned as well, some of the recommendations and solutions that leaders have, like at the local municipality level, is because they too have a lack of knowledge as to how that affects, because they're making sure that the community that they're responsible for and leading have economic resources into which the town doesn't just go, hanging a hair wire. There's a saying that the love of money is evil, right? But we all know that we have to have some type of financial backing in order to make this work. It all equals to some type of dollar amount. So the key is to more being an advocate or being that person to get your idea across, even if it means that you have to, I'm not going to say you have to submit to something that's incorrect and not part of your values, but you have to also see the good within, put yourself in what they have to deal with budget restraints. And whether we do disaster relief or do we do a program over here, as far as in the coastal region in which we live, a lot of it is things that we could have controlled back in the day, but now is to what we have. We have stronger hurricanes, we have earthquakes, we have different things that when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, it's not the same anymore. You might get an earthquake in Rock Hill, South Carolina, maybe at a 2, 3. We're getting those things now at a 5 in Columbia, South Carolina. So things of that nature. Again, develop the citizen and community scientist is something that is going to be on the next slide, but that is very important to know how the relation to the information that we're giving and how it can affect policy and policy development to help us all. And again, this is not solutions that are just in the Gullah community. It's actually pretty much a practice that we can do all if we were to really look at it as a totality. And then building science, building relationship within the scientific community. Good example of this is I am actually a chemist by trade, and I went to school to become an environmental scientist for the military. And I'm just using what I have to actually make sure that my community has the data and has the latest scientific methods that are there in a way, try to explain it to a way where it's understandable. Like if I know something, I think we were talking about this the other day, Marilyn, we were talking about moss, Spanish moss, and how that's important. Okay, Spanish moss is a plant that's, grows up on the trees, is long. Instead of going ahead and trying to keep your blood pressure up, you can put that in your shoe and actually it will lower your blood pressure. So some of the things that we have been doing for so long is science related and medically related is now being recognized now, or there are people looking for that information. So when someone comes and say, well, the blood pressure, hypertension is always here and you guys are like so high. And well, true, we do have that because probably the diets we eat and etc. But we also have that right in our backyard. I haven't tried the Georgia moss yet, in Maryland, but it's one of those things to where I know if I go home, I know that's what I'll go off my mom's tree and just get some, and other herbs like life everlasting and pine needles and the things that we take care and we're so indigenous to that we have to see what is the good thing where, it's not bad if they come back and say, well, the scientific things to these are A, B, C, D, and E. It's actually just giving you that extra knowledge on how it works. Okay, so you understand what you were doing the whole time is correct. But again, it's that barrier in language and communication. And then, of course, again, as I mentioned earlier, support the community-based leadership. They got leaders right there that people will automatically listen to. If they say, hey, come to Mount Zion Baptist Church at 3:00, you pretty much wouldn't have to say too much as to why, because it's a community-based leader and they're asking us to come to a church. So it have to be something of some type of importance. So these are the solutions that we've been dealing with while we're doing this important work and making sure that, especially when it comes to addressing energy justice itself, to make sure that, we are the people of the sun. We're used to, hiking up our window and actually getting just a breeze, or there's a tree right there and that fresh breeze come through. It was a time, growing up, we didn't have, central air heating, no air conditioning either. That was just it. You put the screen door on your front door, you open up the actual door itself, lock the screen door, you knock when you need to come in, but that air circulate through the house with the windows with the screens in it. And now explain that to solar and solar and using different methods to that, to make sure that we get access to other items to keep what we love so much going, versus then to try to destroy the planet. And that's what that we're doing. We're giving those access to energy justice of different ways. Winterization, what Marilyn talked about. You know, we were caulking windows for years when I grew up in Johns Island. We used to put a towel underneath, or the towel on the door, underneath the door, so it wouldn't, you know, wintertime is heat, and then you're like, hey, close that door, you know, because we kept the heat in. Or we use wood, you know, scrap wood, or wood that's gonna, you know, turn into something different. We hurry up and use that. I used to cut wood when I was a kid. So these things are still helpful. And then the things that are new and bringing us up to speed, we also need access to that as well.
Thank you,
Marilyn?
Chriscilia. Thank you, Chriscilia. So before we move on to the next slide, our approach to these solutions with the Gullah Geechee Chamber sister organizations is an organizational approach. When Chriscilia and I met, I believe it's going on 2 years now, Chriscilia added in the individual piece, addressing it on a more granular individual level, the energy needs, the energy burdens, the energy justice. And together, we've now moved forward. We're working from an organizational level and an individual level that we are presenting programs. Through those programs, meeting our community where they are and also bringing in outside resources to help with those energy burdens, there's some things that we've realized. One of the things we've realized is, and Chriscilia just touched on it, we need folks with 1 foot in the culture and 1 foot in the science. And that's not necessarily going and getting a STEM or STEAM degree. We hope that eventually happens. It also means creating community and citizen scientists. So the next few slides is about actual programs and the work that we're doing. And I want Chriscilia to talk about building citizen and community scientists.
So thank you, Marilyn. So within the scientist itself, and being as a building citizen scientist, it's just basically a member of the general public who collects and analyzes data relating to the natural world. Case in point, as a citizen scientist, we can ask you to take a sample of your water. Okay, like you're drinking water, and your data, we'll give you a class on how to correctly collect the data. And then we have outside resources like the foot that's outside the door that can analyze it. You're helping really seriously because you're giving us that micro view of more of a line of where that water is coming from. So we'll know contaminations, what is actually going on with our system. Is our water piping okay? Is it not okay? But we're able to do that because if we ask you or anyone from the general public in the area to take your samples, we can trace that with scientific stuff. Like myself, I can get a lot out of data for someone just getting it from them homes, but it shouldn't be me by myself going around to say 500 homes and collecting water data, where you can actually quickly help me and I can teach you one small simple class on how you run your water first, and then you let it run for a little bit, and then you go ahead and you take your sample. Okay, and there's a reason. Well, that's a whole nother class, but that will tell you why you run it for a little while. I can go into the science and tell you about your piping, your coding, etc. Then it's the practice of public participation and collaboration with the data that you've collected to actually increase scientific knowledge of just exactly what I just said. You can do that with soil, you can do that with water, you could do that with attitudes, you can look at it, the temperatures of the day. I mean, even we do it kind of sort of like in schools, they, hey, your children can't go outside or shouldn't go outside with the heat index being at this level. So we can collect those temperatures. I mean, you automatically checking outside always about 98 degrees. Okay, the kids in the elementary school can't go outside no more than that 5 minutes. So instead of sending them out there in the baking sun, what can we do inside to actually get them still the exercise that they need to run that steam off real quick, and also not have any type of heat stroke? Children in the Gullah Geechee area now is not the same when I was growing up. We went outside all the time, every chance we got, and get a water hose and be okay. Everyone share the water hose, or you go out in certain times of the day and then you knew just automatically come in. Now it's like it's your heat today is like freezing tomorrow. So with that being said, those data collections from off those points can also help us how to regulate possibilities of forecasting what might happen tomorrow, or what might happen at the same time this year. So building your knowledge and showing you how to collect it, and then going back and give you basic analyzation can help you as an individual, and then collectively as to what solutions will be fitted for what we're dealing with at that time. So that's what building citizen science is all about.
Thank you, Chriscilia. That data is very important. Once we collect the data, then what do you do with it? So some of the programming that we have developed in our environmental and energy fields include our Gullah Geechee Environment and Energy Roundtables, which is a real fancy word for focus groups. But it's very important because it allows us to meet the people where they are. We take these focus groups, and in 2023, we're going to have 4 focus groups minimum, 2 in South Carolina, 2 in Georgia. We take these focus groups and we meet the people where they are, and we ask them about energy and energy justice and what's going on in their communities. We ask them about environmental issues, climate change, environmental justice in their communities. That's data. That's also within the culture. And we have learned so much from folks. We've learned about natural gas plants and the impact on these communities. We've learned about coal generating plants. We've learned about nuclear plants and nuclear storage in these communities and the impact on these communities. And we've learned this is how we move towards the direction of getting community and citizen scientists. We have monthly conversations. Prior to COVID, these monthly conversations were in person, where we brought in environmental and energy groups to talk with our community, because we want an exchange of information from the community, information from the organizations or individuals, so that both become a resource to each other. So we have these monthly conversations. Prior to COVID, they were in person. Now they're on a gathering place, our semi-weekly online show that every second Wednesday, the theme is environmental and energy. And that's where we have that online exchange of information. And hopefully soon we'll be able to go back in person. And this will happen up and down the entire Gullah Geechee corridor as we expand to the other states. So now we're in South Carolina and Georgia, and we will be going physically into North Carolina, Florida next. And then our annual Gullah Geechee Environmental and Energy Conference, we're in year 5 in 2023. In October, we'll be hosting this conference in Brunswick, Georgia. This conference has 3 tracks: a cultural track, an environmental track, and an energy track. The cultural track, we showcase the work that's being done in the culture and the community. There are folks actually doing the work, and we want to be part of showcasing them so they get more exposure. The environmental track speaks for itself. It's where we address environmental issues, where we educate folks, bring everybody together, and we educate them and exchange information. And then the energy track, we talk about energy. We talk about green renewable energy. We talk about how can we advocate within our community for green renewable energy. We were big supporters of stop offshore drilling in the Atlantic. And there's actually a group that's a member of the chamber called SODA, Stop Offshore Drilling in the Atlantic. So we were big proponents of not drilling in the Atlantic, but we are also on the flip side of that. When you say no, we want to say yes to something. So we're big proponents of solar. We're looking at wind. And in this entire process, Chriscilia and I, especially me, have learned so much about the environment and energy, things I did not know even 2 years ago. I'm learning, and it taught me that we need to share this information with the entire community. And that's why we're big proponents of these 3 environmental energy program topics that I just listed: roundtables, conversations, and the conference itself. And of course, you are all welcome to the conference in October. Next, by the numbers. All of this work has been happening over the last 5 years. We've held in-person 4 conversations, hybrid 12 plus, roundtables, 9 along the South Carolina coast and Midlands. We're now taking those and expanding them to Georgia this year. And the conference itself is in year 5, 3 tracks. We now added a pre-conference excursion where we go to a local location, whether it's aqua or agriculture, to educate. It's now 2 days. Over the past 5 years, we've had more than 600 persons attend, and attendees from the United States and 8 countries. But the conference has evolved into a hybrid conference because that one thing that has impacted all of us, the COVID pandemic. But that's a positive for us because it has allowed us to expand to our cousins and to a global audience. We'll take any questions. I hope we're on time. But I want to leave here our contact information. You can reach out to me at any time. We do have 2 websites. We have Chriscilla's information here also. You can go to the website if you want to volunteer, let us know. And if you want to donate, feel free to donate also. But we are now open to any questions.
Thank you so much, Marilyn and Chriscilla. We always love hearing about your community and y'all's solutions related to community engagement and awareness to help address energy insecurity. We do have a couple of questions for our participants. We would encourage you to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen. I see Claire has raised her hand. We have one that's in the chat that I'll go ahead and read off now for y'all. We've got, what do y'all offer in terms of education for corporate clients? I'm thinking of the work environments I've been in and how useful this knowledge would be, especially if it includes how corporations can support the community.
Good, excellent question. I'll let Chriscilla add to this also, but I travel and I do a lot of workshops and seminars and presentations. We would love to develop the arc of the growth of our programming and organizations. We are now, and I'm being quite frank with you, develop the sponsorship packet so we could develop relationships with corporations where they're actually supporting our programming, and we are open to bringing them in. They actually have been speakers at some of our conferences where we bring in corporations. We are selective about that. I would not bring an oil and gas corporation in. I'm just being honest. But anything that's forward-thinking, green, renewable energy, we would love to have involved with our work. And I'll go talk to oil and gas. They may not like what I have to say, but we are open to that. And just this past week, I actually was part of a nature-based exchange that brought in corporate heads, vice presidents, county administrators, etc., from around the country to the Penn Center in Beaufort County, which is a historic Gullah Geechee site, and was able to do a presentation with them also. And Chriscilla?
And so for myself, if it is to where your corporation wants to know how are in our communities or in communities such as Gullah Geechee, and you need assistance, I also not only do what Marilyn do, but that is the core of what I do for my organization. We teach you how to be a help and how to get that relationship started with communities such as ours. So I do the opposite, and I actually put the my actual website in the chat for everybody to pick. And if you need help on a corporate level, on that level, to help to be a positive change in the communities, definitely I can help you with those with that, with presentations and stuff on both sides.
And I do want to add with corporations, don't forget I am a chamber. So we do tours, heritage tours, but we're flexible enough that we could do energy and environmental tours within the community with corporations if they really want to be on that cultural level. We are open to that. We have the means of making that happen also.
And that's the beauty of, when Marilyn and I first, met, it was literally on the energy track. I was a guest speaker on the energy track, and she was like, hey, I got this great idea. And we just started, after the show, we started talking about the similarities in the resources we both have on both sides, which is like totally great. So yes, although we yeah, maybe not the gas in them directly, because I probably have some extra words with that with Marilyn. So,
And
but we
yeah,
do, offer, again, if it's something towards, if you're trying, as Marilyn said, if you're trying to do culturally more, or if you're trying on, Marilyn definitely will, we'll work together with that. And if you just want something generally speaking, like the overall, the other layers to the businesses and corporations on how you can do that just in general, we can help with that as well. So it's a perfect fit. And if you want us to come together, we can hope, well, I know Marilyn and I, we're real creative individuals. We can join it together, and we can actually put together something. As she said, we just started really doing sponsor packets and trying to look at those avenues in which you're asking questions on, to have something that we can offer. Any other questions?
I actually had a question geared up.
Mhm.
So within your presentation, thank you so much for sharing all of that knowledge. I learned so much, even though we've been talking for months, somehow I still learned even more. So thank you for sharing.
Welcome.
But that being said, within your presentation, you spoke to the fixtures of finances, investment, access to information, collaboration, and advocacy. They're all fixtures that exist within awareness and community engagement, but at times they can still be roadblocks within your work. So I was curious to learn more about how has the greater Gullah Geechee community historically reacted to these conversations, historically and in the present day.
Marilyn, you want to take that portion first?
Joyce, say that again.
Absolutely. So within your presentation, you spoke to the fixtures of finances, investment, access to information, collaboration, advocacy. These are all fixtures that exist within awareness and community engagement. However, in your presentation, you mentioned that they can sometimes be roadblocks within your work. So I'd be curious to know, is there any historical connection within the Gullah Geechee community as to why that might be, or any reasons today within the present day why that exists?
That's an excellent question. Through my learning arc and the work that I'm doing, and like Joy, I learn so much more every day about my community, culture, but all those outside resources that are present. Two things I've learned. The Gullah Geechee, because of our history, we have a traumatic relationship with money. Our ancestors were brought here and were not paid for their physical labor and their mental knowledge. Europeans came here, saw the land, and didn't know what to do with it. The Native Americans, it was a genocide thing. And some were also enslaved, but the bulk of the knowledge was they realized that this looks very similar to West Africa. Let's go get those folks because they know how to do something with this land. So they extracted those folks and took the knowledge of how to grow the rice, the indigo. All too often, when we talk about the peculiar institution of slavery, people talk about cotton and tobacco, but it started indigo and rice, set up that foundation of that peculiar institution. So historically, we've always had extraction. Our value was extracted. That impacts us to this day. There is real trauma regarding money. And that trauma displays itself in number two, distrust of financial institutions, a lack of financial literacy, not valuing who we are. I teach an entrepreneurship course, and one of the major things when we talk about a budget, developing a budget for your small business, everyone leaves out salary. And this is a real impact on individuals, households, and organizations. So if we don't have that financial inflow into our community, I've touched on it earlier, we've got to work 2 or 3, 4 jobs. When are you going to find time to be an energy justice advocate? That's a real thing. So it's kind of a big circle, big broad picture view. But when you get that picture view and you really drill down with it, it has real life impact. It has impact on sustainability of organizations like mine and Chriscilla's organizations. It has impact on recruiting community advocates. A lot of knowledge is there, but just even getting people to come out. So what have we done? Part of the solutions, really drilling down, is our Gullah Geechee Environmental and Energy Conference. We offer babysitting services. So single mothers, single parents can bring their kids, their babysat while you're in this conference learning about energy, environmental justice, and how to be a community advocate. We also offer gas cards. That's a huge issue. And that's an energy issue because it takes gas to create the energy to run your car. So we actually have to think about things like that on a very granular level to get information to our community and also to help them become community advocates. They may have the desire to be an advocate, but money that really holds it back. And we have to really address that. It's a real thing. And I hope that answered your question.
It does. Thank you. Great.
Good question, by the way.
Thanks so much. Okay. Well, I'm going to, if we don't have any other questions from the group, I'm going to go back to sharing our final slides within our presentation.
Can I say something very quickly to Joy?
Absolutely.
Talking about and I just actually lost my thought really quickly there. You were talking, but Chriscilia talked on it about, we hear that verse about the money is the root of all evil, and that's something our community we hear a lot growing up, and I think that has also hampered us, and that reflects that trauma with money. And when the verse, if you hear the whole verse, and I'm not even saying the whole thing now, is the love of money is the root of all evil, and that inherent lesson we've been taught has hurt us, and it does hold us back, not only in the economic uplift and justice, but in that energy justice, because that's an economic issue, and it just reflects our trauma. So one of the other solutions that I've come up with, this, I shouldn't say I, but the chamber has positioned itself is to tell groups, and we talked about this in earlier meetings, when you come to our community, you need to make sure if you come with grants that you write in those grant stipends for our community members in which you're trying to get knowledge. If you come as a corporation, you need to come with sponsorships or grants or whatever. You need to come making a financial investment in our community, because since the peculiar institution of slavery, Jim Crow, civil rights movement, all of these movements, we have had knowledge and physical labor extracted from our community, even until 2023. I am still having these conversations with community members. Know your value. It is nothing wrong with asking for payment. And that's a real thing that impacts the bigger circle. And I just wanted to say that, and thank you for giving me that moment.
You get all of the moments, Marilyn. Thank you so much. Right. So I'm going to share my screen to wrap up the work that we're doing. So as we discussed today, this was the first of our webinar series to discuss the Duke Energy Insecurity recommendations. The first was awareness and community engagement. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Commissioner Marilyn Hemingway and Chriscilia Cox. Thank you for spending your time with us and sharing knowledge with us. I believe, and I can speak for everyone by saying we have learned so much. Upcoming, we do have 5 remaining working groups. You can see the topics on the screen above, and we have left the future webinar dates to be tentative. We do anticipate that they will be the last Wednesday of every month, but if you know an organization or would be know an organization that is aligned with these groups, please contact us. I believe Lily has put in our contact information in the chat. And I will wrap up by saying thank you for attending today's webinar. We would appreciate feedback by filling out the survey that pops up after the webinar closes. Please note that you will be receiving a recording link in the slides shortly. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Marilyn, and thank you, Chriscilia. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.